sont dit partout.
What's going on there, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. Conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. Yes, we're back with another live stream for you guys tonight. I know there were some problems with the stream last week because we were trying to simultaneously stream the presidential debates. But I think it was a little bit too much for either my internet or my computer, and so I know there were some audio problems, like you couldn't hear the stream from the debates very well. Hopefully we'll be able to iron some of that out for the next time. And I think we said that we were going to watch the vice presidential debates tomorrow, right?
Yeah, that's tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So hopefully we'll be able to iron those issues out.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah. Hopefully. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what I can do in terms of internet except for turn off all non-essential Wi-Fi devices.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens. I'll try to figure something out. But
sounds like fun to me.
Yeah, but let's not forget a very lovely stream that we have planned for you tonight. We'll be finishing up. Because of the debates, it kind of threw off our schedule. So we'll be finishing last month's movie theme, which is silent movies, and we'll be reviewing the
2
movies.
episodes of Speedways.
What was it?
Well, for today we're doing 2 episodes of our Lost Speedways documentary, and then
right, it's a double decker.
And finishing up September's movies.
Yeah. We'll be so tonight we'll be reviewing Metropolis and The Kid.
Yes,
Kid,
sir.
starring Charlie Chaplin, the silent movie star.
Yes, sir.
Also a review of Lost Speedways episodes 4 and 5, I believe.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, but and I think we're gonna go and also we'll also do kind of a analysis of the debate, and not to mention kind of the goings on the past week. All that's in store for the next hour or two. Just for some housekeeping, just wanted to because we saw each other the night before, but we never actually saw each other on the day of. So I wish Rob a happy belated birthday.
Happy birthday, sir.
Yes. If you didn't know, both Rob and I share the same birthday, which was this past Sunday on the 4th. Even though we were together the night before for a birthday celebration, a little bit more for Rob as opposed to myself. We were trying to do a tandem birthday celebration, but I actually got hired to cover a wedding, to be a wedding photographer, and so on that Saturday night, and so I wasn't able to participate as fully as I would like to have been. Even though I did, and after the wedding, I did end up making it over to Rob's place.
Yeah, just for a little bit, and things ended with a little bit of fireworks, but that's that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, and then, but yeah, no, birthday overall was pretty good. Um, didn't really do. Yeah, normally I would. I'm not a big party guy, to be honest. My
Hmm.
wife's the one that wanted to throw the party, so I was like,
Hmm.
all right, if that's what you want to do, we'll do that. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. People from a variety of different friend groups all
Hmm.
kind of came together, and I think everyone had a really good time for the most part. So it was a lot of fun. Uh, and but yeah, nothing other than that I really did, and nothing like super special or anything like that.
Hmm.
So yeah, I have drinks for the next like 6 months, which is awesome.
Yeah, so you'll be good, but you probably not be able to knock that out in half that time.
We'll see. It's if I was by myself, maybe, but now I gotta be you know I I have someone saying like waving their finger at me. So
Yeah, no, I don't know. Yeah, as I get getting older, I'm less and um, less enthralled by the idea of big gatherings, and
um,
I'd rather just go and like meet people one on one and just really be able to connect with them and share a moment. And I think yeah, and I think maybe going forward, I might just do that. I just might just set up and not in the same way as some 20 something women goes like, oh, birthday month, but um, I just might throughout the month of October, I just might set up appointments, just to go hang out with people individually, just like have a dinner or lunch or even just like a quick drink.
I suggest this for next year for us that we should do a birthday movie marathon, just the two of us.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah.
We'll share some drinks, share some food, and share some movies.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, are we gonna try to do like a 24-hour thing, or are we just gonna do like a day, like 8 to 10 hours?
Oh, that's a good. I didn't think about that. I like the 24-hour idea. See, like we could try to like cram in as many movies that we've been like wanting to watch for a while.
Hmm.
See, the fun part of doing this, like if we, I think that could be. We maybe could do something like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess we can figure out logistics later, but
Yeah.
just something that I was thinking of. Like, are we gonna try to try to cram in 24 hours of movies, or just do like a average day, like 8 to 10 hours?
We'll start off with 8 to 10 hours. We'll see. I mean, we'll work it
I don't
out
know.
over
Well,
the.
see, I'm thinking since we're not both of us, neither of us are getting any younger, so I was thinking maybe we should try and go for the 24 hours first while we're still, kind of young, and
And
so
if we make it to 8 or 10, like that, I think that's pretty solid.
right, yeah. So yeah, like we'll shoot for 24 hours, but if we reach the benchmark of 8 to 10, then I think we still have achieved something.
And I think it would be fun if we did like a quick you know like 1 to 2 minute review. We record them and then we just splice everything together.
Oh yeah.
And as the day goes on, as the more like drunk that we get, like how more
I know. I was like,
ridiculous.
I'm so
Yeah.
sick of this.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but no, it was a good night. It was a good time. I mean, we pretty much have overlapping friend groups, or we know mutual people, so it ended up being okay. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Most of our
yeah, and
close.
even right now, there's a lot of people like I know, like even if I invited them, they still probably wouldn't have come out because of like the whole Corona thing.
Yeah. But
So
later in the month, we're gonna be doing something for the people that couldn't make it out, Andy. So we'll have like one more kind of like not at my house, but we'll do another celebration somewhere else.
okay, yeah, maybe that could be an option.
Yeah. Well, all right, let's dive into this bastard.
All right, yeah. So yeah, let's start off with the weekend review. I mean, a lot of stuff happened. I guess let's first start off with like the debate. Um, you know,
It was
we kind of did have like an end of the debate kind of overview, but after a week's gone by, I think we might I think we might have different thoughts on it. And I definitely consumed like a lot of like differing opinions and
like,
some people pointed out some things that I didn't see or and or some people didn't even mention even didn't think about the things that I saw, and so
yeah.
it was very helpful to get it for different perspective.
Well, I mean, something that's not new, but like it just one thing that continues to really bother me is the fact that the moderators and of the ones that are going to be there, Chris Wallace is probably the most moderate, and the guy was just protecting Biden with all his heart.
Right? No, he
Anytime,
was definitely running interference.
anytime that Biden was posed with a difficult question,
Mhm.
Chris Wallace would come diving to the rescue.
Right. Yeah, just like any time that Trump tried to pin him down to something, um, Biden would just come in with a steel with a steel chair. It's
Yeah,
kind of to use a wrestling metaphor. Um, it's supposed to be a one-on-one match, and then all of a sudden, what is it? Steve Austin comes in, and
right. Yeah,
you know,
and the other thing that I noticed too is that we've been feeling a little bit sorry for Biden. He's a decrepit, old man that
yeah,
has dementia,
a dithering old man, and
and
it's a little sad to see him in the state that he's in now. Not in his prime anymore, and not as not as you know, filled with vitality as he once was.
yeah,
Um,
and we kind of started feeling a little sorry for him, but for most of the night he was
yeah,
fairly
all for
lucid.
about 5 seconds. Yeah, all for about 5 seconds, and then we realize how much of a lying piece of shit he is.
He is an awful, awful man, and the fact
Yeah,
that
and it's funny because it's like this isn't new. Like his entire career is filled with nothing but lies. There's like that video going around where like all the lies that he's told,
oh yeah,
or like plagiarizing other politicians' speeches. I think
I
most
mean,
famously is like a politician from England, and he pretty much like
well, his
took the entire story of that British or that English politician.
he stole one of the, I think it was either Ted Kennedy or Bobby Kennedy's speech,
Well,
and
no,
kind of
he pulled he stole from both Bobby and Jack.
Jesus. And
Um,
I mean, and he's like, oh, but I was paraphrasing. It's like, no, you weren't.
no, you were saying if you were paraphrasing, you would have said to paraphrase so and then gone on to quote. That's
Yeah,
different. That's complete. What you were doing is trying to pass off their words or their ideas as for your own. And
but
it's just like like and like even like there's like that one famous clip where he. It's so funny because he always attacks people. There's like it happened in the past and it's happening now. Most famously there's the that confrontation that he had with one of like kind of another like kind of elderly man, and he said like, oh no, I'm totally voting for you in the primary, but blah 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 blah, and then And then Joe Biden just kind of like, loses his cool. He's like, well, then don't vote for me. Go vote for Trump then. And he's like, no, no, no. I'm saying I will vote for you, but it's like this one like kind of like I have like
Yeah.
a few sticking points, and I just want to kind of get clarification. And he just kind of like kept like ripping into him, and then there was that famous one.
You want to go out to the woodshed and do some push-ups, Jack?
Yeah, push-up contest. Yeah, it's like, and there was like that, I forget, like a steel worker or something, where
Yeah.
he was like saying like, I'm
I'm a Democrat.
How can you get us to vote for you when you're trying to take away our guns? And like me and my fellow workers here, we like guns. And he's like, kind of like almost like finger in his chest was saying like, it's like, yeah, damn right, I'm gonna take your guns or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
What happened?
Oh, no, my wife was like wondering what was going on.
Oh.
She thought like.
You thought you were going insane. You thought she thought that you're turning into Biden and just losing your mind.
Yeah, something like that. Anyways,
but yeah, Biden has been a lying piece of shit his entire career, and whatever they pumped him full, whatever they stuck in his ass, just helped to highlight that fact. It's like when Trump was trying to get him on the Green New Deal, it's like, oh, I don't endorse that. It's like, even though it's on his freaking website.
Well, here's the thing though. It's like he double spoke that whole sentence. Like, you just support the Green New Deal. It's like no, I don't support the New Green, or I do support the New Green Deal or the Green New Deal, but I don't support the Green New Deal. It's like, wait, Joe, which one is it? Like, you can't answer yes and no to this question. You have to actually have a side. And it's
right. Yeah, and then like Trump tried to get him on fracking, I believe, and but then like Chris Wallace like comes in, like a knight in shitty armor.
Yeah, but here's the thing: it's like, okay, the plagiarism, the kind of flip flopping, empty suit politician, that's kind of standard, Washington crap.
Mm-hmm.
But where I think the kind of like horribleness comes in is the guy. I don't know if like he does say a lot of very like quote unquote racist things. It's like, if you don't vote for me, you're not black. If you talking about all like the poor kids are just as intelligent or as the white kids,
talented as good as white kids. Yeah. Equating like all minorities as poor and
as poor.
rich as with white. Right.
And you could call those gaffes, but honestly, I think the guy like doesn't. He just says the stuff that's in his head, doesn't really think about it, and it's just crazy Uncle Joe. It's like no, that's what that guy really.
Joe Biden. Yeah, that's Joe Biden.
And
it's like, to use kind of like a Star Trek metaphor, it's like this disease that the Vulcans get. Because we all, because if you don't know, Vulcans, they're a race of people who mastered like the ability to suppress their emotions because their emotions were so volatile. They learned how to suppress them, and so Vulcans don't like generally express emotions, or at least not overtly. But some Vulcans tend to, as they age, like lose their the ability to regulate their emotions, and so it's kind of in the same vein as like human dementia. They start losing their ability to suppress their emotions, and like it just all starts to come out. And I think similarly in Joe Biden, it's like he's losing because of like the strokes that he had and the aneurysms, like he's losing his ability to rein in his true thoughts.
Right.
And so
it's just so I mean a lot of that comes out, and the fact that it's not, you could say like one thing, like having like a son or a family member that is a that you kind of uses their name, but it's kind of like the black sheep of the family. No, it's like, yes, I'm related to him, but it's like we don't really, he has problems, and yeah, I do love him, but like I'm not like helping him per se. He has to figure it out himself. Obviously you have like, was it Jimmy Carter's brother Billy with Billy Beer and all that.
Yeah.
So you have like that a little bit, and so you could say that like, Hunter Biden, yeah, I'm not really helping him. It's he's using the Biden name, unfortunately, and it looks bad. I understand that, but that's not what's happening. Joe Biden is facilitating all these deals for Hunter Biden, or there. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if it's stuff for Joe, and using Hunter Biden as kind of his go between, because obviously it's like you have that like level of disconnect, like, oh, it's not me doing it, it's my
Right,
son.
yeah, he's using his son as a stalking horse. So, it's like, oh, like, I'm like, oh, of course not. There's no impropriety here. It's my son who's getting these jobs. It's my son who's making this salary. It's
Yeah, and
I can't help that my son has shares the same last name as me.
yeah,
But it's
but
like, but it's like, Joe, like your kid, is an executive in an energy company, but he has no experience in energy. I
yeah,
like what's that about? It's like
and
it would be. I mean, they're both doctors, but it would be like Rand Paul, working as a doctor, just because his dad was a doctor.
right.
In that case, they are both doctors, but like, what kind of a scandal would it be if Ron Paul's son, Rand Paul, decided like, oh, well, I'm gonna be a doctor, but I'm not gonna go to school. I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna ride the coattails on my father's name, of, what my father did, and say, oh, well, it's just, I have the same name as him, so so I should be a doctor.
Exactly. um so, and that's the thing, is like, and that I don't think that question's ever going to get answered. There's so many of like, the Ukraine like phone calls that Joe's had, that have leaked. There's a lot of evidence showing like a lot of impropriety that, Joe Biden is not only does he know about it, he was involved in it. But that question's never going to get fully like answered by him. No one's going to prison for any of that. It is what it is.
Right, yeah.
Uh,
It's just like when the president was like pushing on him about, the $3.5 million that he got from the mayor of Moscow's either former wife
that's something,
or current wife.
yeah, within the
And
week.
it's if it was the president, if it was the president's like daughter or son, it's like there would be committees. There'd be committees held about it.
Yeah.
There'd be Senate investigations over it. If Milan not Melania, but if Ivanka went to Turkey or something, and then the the mayor of Istanbul, a relative of the mayor of Istanbul gave Ivanka Trump $3.5 million. There would be investigations. There'd be Senate hearings
Oh,
over it.
yeah. Donald Trump Jr. Talks about this. If me or any of my siblings did like a tenth of what Hunter, like if we were even involved in a tenth of what Hunter Biden's been involved in,
Mm-hmm.
that would destroy everything. They would come down on us so hard.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, like the Trump kids, if they got a speeding ticket, it'd be it.
It would
They
be
they'd want an FBI probe into it.
yeah, yeah, just nuts.
Yeah.
Um, I think like the one, because one thing I kind of, there was definitely a lot of uh, between the candidates. I kind of would have rather seen Trump be a little bit more measured in some cases, where like it's kind of allowing kind of Biden to hang himself.
Right. Yeah.
Because
That was a lot.
the
That
thing
was
is,
the
the more Biden talks, the more like stupid he comes off as. And he's just this goofy old man that can't put
I
sentences together.
Well, I just wish I wish the president had more like comebacks. Because
Yeah,
when he was when 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 Biden was talking about like, oh, if you have a family member that's not at their place at the dinner table, then it's Trump's fault because he allowed the coronavirus to kill your relative or whatever.
right.
But I wish Trump like would have answered back with like, oh well, if you have a space at the dinner table that's missing, then blame Joe Biden for voting in favor of the Iraq War.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
just like quicker comebacks. And I wish I could take credit for that, but that was from Scott Pressler. I just watched. He was on. I forget. Yeah, he was on a live stream and he was talking. Yeah, he was talking about the debates. And yeah, he wished that there was more like snappy comebacks from the president, or like retorts from the
yeah.
like every time Joe Biden would make some claims like, oh, it's like Trump's fault. It's like, well, But I think the most effective. But just quickly, see Joe Biden. That's how you actually do like paraphrase, and even I'm giving that guy credit.
Exactly.
You
It's
know,
not like
I'm not saying that was my idea, but like I agree with Scott Pressler's stance where like I wish he would like had snappier retorts, but
right.
oh man, I lost my train of thought. God dang it! I shouldn't have stopped to make correction.
But anyways, like like I said, I kind of like I wish Trump would have done more to let Biden hang himself
Right.
because as the a lot of the commentary that I saw, yeah, and these guys they're wanting Trump to win, but they kind of felt like it's kind of Trump came off too much as too much of a uh not a bully, but like just he kind of came off as like kind of a little bit of and he is kind of like this kind of over the top kind of character,
Mm-hmm.
um, but it kind of looked bad for him in a sense of like instead of allowing the focus to be more on Biden and how awful Biden is, it
I think.
became more about Trump interrupting and kind of making a lot of
Right.
jabs. And the thing is, it's an unfair fight because Donald Trump is not just he's not debating Joe Biden. He has to fight the moderator even.
Yeah. So it's like two against one
Yeah.
on that stage. But just to make a maybe more clear vision of what was going on, because I do agree with you that Trump should have let Joe Biden talk because that's Biden's greatest failing. Uh,
Yeah.
but what was happening was Joe Biden was about to make a Simpsons reference. He was about to step on the rake,
Yeah.
but instead of letting Joe Biden step on the rake, he picks up the rake and throws it at him.
Yeah, exactly. And so it makes him kind of look like this kind of like a dick. And
Yeah,
instead
yeah,
of
yeah.
and like the thing is like we all agree with it because it's true. But you gotta let him like walk into the rake. So we all laugh and oh shit, I can't vote for this guy.
Right. But I
Um,
mean, yeah, I mean, a buddy of mine, he texted me like right after the debates, um, and he was like saying, he's like, "Oh man, that was such a travesty." I think a lot of people who are not very political or not really plugged into like all the politics that's going around, I think they felt that way. They wanted to hear the candidates speak and they wanted to hear ideas, but it's like
they
that's
want a
done with.
Lincoln Douglas debate, not a
Yeah, exactly. And it's like those days are gone. It's like we're never having those debates again, or at least we're not gonna have them for a great long while.
right.
And it's just like, and he was like, really upset. It's like, oh, I wish Trump would have allowed him to talk more, or So I wanted to hear them talk about ideas and stuff. It's like that wasn't gonna happen. And I just kind of texted back. It's like that wasn't gonna happen. It's like
When
because I was like, dude, because I know because I text I was telling him I was like I know that you don't follow politics, so you don't know that these aren't this isn't back like Obama versus McCain where it's just like, oh no, ma'am, like it's like he's like we both love the country, we just have different ideas about
how to
how to
run
get
it.
there. Yeah, how to get there.
When in
You know,
reality, that woman was right because Obama.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, when that woman called out Obama, it's like, yeah, he's a socialist. Like, yeah, she was spot on, 100%.
That
That old lady was keeping it 100, folks.
yeah,
Uh,
she gets the gold star for the night.
right, yeah. But like, yeah, it's just so yeah, those days are gone. They're like, or again, like they're not gonna happen for a great long time because
Because even the Democrat Party, is has changed so much just in the last like 2 or 3 elections.
yeah.
It's not
Well, since
it's not
2000, yeah,
like
so like for 4 years, because the general, which was in the was 16, and then the midterms, like those two elections, it's a quantum leap in it's a quantum leap in terms of like the Democrat Party evolution.
right.
Because because they were still because back then, even back in 2016, they were still trying to play to the moderates. But slowly but surely they just they saw that that was a losing demographic, and because they're the loudest, like the radical left, it's like, oh, that's the way to success. That's going to be our demographic. That's who we're going to accommodate to. But
Yeah,
but again, kind of like Dark Knight, the mobsters, hiring the Joker to go, kill Batman. It's like they turn to a group that they didn't fully understand.
exactly. Yeah, and it's a agent of chaos that ends up taking over everything and
Hmm.
is not only is going to destroy what you want to destroy, but it's going to destroy you in the process.
Right, exactly.
Um, but yeah, so, and that's kind of yeah, this type of like nice like debate like I've never felt this before, but our country really is at stake. It's
No, yeah, absolutely, yeah, because no longer is the day it's like, oh, you know what? He's like, yes, it's like Joe Johnson has a very good point, and I believe that we should, I believe we should, strive for X, Y, Z. But I believe he's just going about the wrong way. It's like no
yeah,
longer is it that. It's just like you're a liar. You're a piece. I mean, the Joe Biden called Trump a clown and
twice.
told him to like shut up.
Yeah. I mean that's like
Like,
that's
yeah,
fine. I don't care about that, but like the fact that like he doesn't stand for anything, but it's the people that stand behind him that are going to knock him down the moment he gets into office, and they're
mhm.
either going to kill him, b exercise the 25th Amendment, or he's just going to resign. He's going to be
No,
forced to
no.
resign.
Well, no. See, like he has to be in office for at least 2 years. At least 2 years, and then they could either kill him or allow him to retire due to health reasons, and
Yeah,
then we could potentially get 10 years of Kamala Harris.
that's the thing. That's what's I have a feeling that's what's at stake, and she
Mm-hmm.
is one of the most radical candidates. I don't think I mean, Hillary is one of the most unlikable people ever.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, but at least with Hillary, she's predictable. She's predictable,
yeah,
right? But Kamala Harris, even though people say that she's incredibly radical leftist, I think she's dangerous in that she doesn't have a stance. With Hillary, you understood what she was about. She was about power and money, and
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 herself.
and herself, and that could be depended on. But
Yeah,
Kamala Harris is like she's not terribly leftist, but she is a huge opportunist.
yeah.
you know. And so, so she's kind of like lightning, and she'll take the path of least resistance. And right now, that path of least resistance is the radical left.
Yeah, but yeah, it's overall, like, I think I'm kind of interested to see. I think the vice presidential debate will be interesting because Pence is not doesn't come off to me as a guy that is quite as much of a bully as Trump
Well,
is, but the
but
guy's also
no, but what he is he's suited to the role.
very much so.
He's suited for his position, but
Yeah,
he lacks the showmanship of Trump.
I
But
think
hopefully,
he's
but
just as like smart and strong. He's just not the showman that Trump
right.
is.
But I hope that being under him for these last 4 years, I hope some of that, he's picked up. I hope he's picked up some of that.
Yeah,
Not
because
like not the total like bombastic Trump, but just enough to like make things exciting. How to rile up a crowd. How to take a pot shot and then like kind of like mug for the audience. That sort of stuff.
yeah, and he's gonna need that against Kamala Harris, who is one vicious lady.
Yeah, but even in the primary, she's not a fantastic debater.
No, I mean, but like she'll do this, like she'll make this kind of just dumb statement, and like she like laughs and smiles, like
Yeah,
it's like,
laughs at her own joke and she'll cackle at her own joke, and it's like, but everyone's just like, ugh.
oh yes, Queen, oh
Yeah, slay. But
yeah,
I think not all, but one of the things that Mike Pence has to do is hold her to her record.
and it's awful.
Yes, exactly. So
She
again,
die on death row.
not the only thing he has to do, but one of the things he has to do is hold her to her record.
Yeah, because it wasn't like when she was, I think it was like attorney general or district attorney or whatever from California,
Mm-hmm.
where she had evidence that could have exonerated some people that were on
Right.
death row.
Mm-hmm.
She withheld the evidence,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
so
and it
like,
wasn't until court order forced her to reveal it.
yeah, that's awful.
Yeah. Right. And
She was
then
willing to let people die.
yeah, and what was it? Yeah, and like she wasn't that good of a prosecutor because she didn't go after like the big fish. She just went after the guppies, the low levels, who couldn't afford the fancy lawyers. So so they take plea bargains so that they still serve time. So she
Yeah,
could then she could then pad her record and say, oh, look at all the convictions that I got, or look at all the people that I put away. It's like, yeah, some Darnell, who had like 3 joints on him for recreational use,
right.
or or what is it, or Tyrone, who had like maybe like 10 ounces of marijuana, and he sold like the other half to one of his friends. It's like, oh, well, you got him on distribution. It's just like,
But you didn't get the guy that like shot 4 people because they were on his corner. It's
right, exactly, yeah.
so it's going to be interesting. This is going to be a very vicious, contentious election. I'm very exhausted, but at the same time, I'm also like, well, the country's at stake. So this is actually something that I think we have to stay keeping our focus on. Um,
Right.
if
Yeah,
we
and I
actually,
mean, it's like this year. I mean, they always say that this is the most important election of our lifetimes, but this is like literal. This is like existential threat to the United States.
yeah,
And it's not overselling. It's not overselling the point by saying that, yeah, the literal country is at stake.
yep. All right.
Well, yeah. Well, that took a good sizable portion. Just quickly, I guess let's just quickly review. go over some of the things that have happened, like the president contracting corona.
Yeah, well, yeah. I haven't other than like hearing that news and like obviously he's starting to get better apparently.
Mm-hmm.
So I know they obviously he's the president, so he has access to probably a lot more experimental stuff that they're supposedly closing in on a like a vaccine or at least some sort of they treatments
Yeah,
and stuff.
therapeutics and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so he obviously has quick access to all of that. Um,
Right, but I think what's the most important is his message to the country afterwards. You know,
not
when
to
he's
let
talking
it like not to let it like scare you, kind of take
right, not to
control.
live in fear. Not there's nothing to worry about because we live in the greatest country in the world with the best, equipment, best medicines, best treatments, and so on and so forth. And I think, yeah, that was, so powerful, to hear, like, because the all the left wants to do is like doom and gloom, doom and gloom. We have to have another, 3-month lockdown. Everyone has to wear masks.
You know,
We're
the
gonna kill
highly
the economy.
the highly exalted Dr. Fauci,
Yeah,
being
hallowed be his name.
yeah, kind of say, oh, we need to just be locked down, and it's like the thing is, and I've been trying to get this across. Feels like, listen, you can be cautious without letting fear overtake your life.
Hmm.
And I told this to like my Christian brothers and sisters, like, do you think that God wants us to be living in fear? That like it's nothing can save us. It's this virus is gonna kill us all. It's like, yeah, you think that's how God wants us to live? Be
Right. I
cowards
mean,
in
yeah. It's just like,
corner?
I always like say to people, I always tell people, it's like, what about the Black Plague? Killed nearly like a third of the European continent. They didn't
Yeah,
like they weren't shut down. They weren't like they weren't. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people spent their times in churches praying, but it's just like that's not the only thing they were doing.
yeah,
You
and
know.
it's like that was back in the
Yeah, that was before
church.
that was before we knew about like germ theory and
Yeah,
understood about like microorganisms and whatnot. So it's just like, and it's like, and ultimately, it's like if you're gonna get it, you're gonna get it, and there's nothing that you can do to stop it.
yeah,
You know,
but like I said, if
it's
it's my time to go, it's my time to go. If I'm gonna die from some disease, it was meant to happen. Um,
yeah,
I don't like live with like reckless abandon, but at the same
right. No,
time, like
yeah,
you have to live your life and you have to live it without being like Chicken Little and being scared of the sky falling on your face.
right. Yeah, no, I went to go visit my niece. Uh, well, I visited her twice in the last couple of days. Um, but yeah, I guess in my family, I'm starting to get a reputation for not wearing a mask.
Yeah,
And then and like my niece's father, you know, I was talking to him about it, and then I told him. Well, I asked first about like what his opinion on masks are, and
mhm,
it was very nuanced. He understands that they're not perfect, and they don't guarantee 100% protection, but they can be useful. And he then turned the question to me because again, he was hearing stuff from different family members. Because again, I'm getting kind of like that reputation.
right.
And I just said like, it's like I believe I'm not against wearing masks. I'm just I'm against wearing masks when they don't make sense. Like
Yeah,
when I went to go visit my niece, I wore a mask because she compromised because she has a compromised immune system, and and like even if I
yeah,
don't have coronavirus, I might have some, I might even have like I just might have a regular cold and I could pass it on to her. And so, yeah, I took the precaution and I wore a mask. I don't believe in wearing masks for no reason. There has to be a good reason. Like just like people who like wear masks outdoors, it's like that's
why?
stupid. Why? We're outside. There's there's ample ventilation. You know, Like the problem was indoors. All right, the worry was indoors because the particles could could float around in the air uh, for hours, and it could spread through to people and stuff. It's like okay fine indoors. But it's just like people who wear masks out, like people who wear masks in their freaking cars when they're by themselves.
Oh my God, that's the thing. Like you're an idiot.
I know. It's just like, yeah, let's inherently, put something on our face that reduces the amount of oxygen that we can get, and then operate a heavy machine.
Yeah, and you get the even like when we were going out to eat somewhere, it's like oh well, we need to have your mask to come in, but then like when you're in your little section, like oh well the mask
Now
like
you can say,
the
yeah,
mask where coronavirus doesn't happen.
exactly. And this is back when they were like kind of letting people eat indoor before like the whole eating outdoor, eating outside was the big thing. But it's
Yeah.
like you had to wear it as you walked in, but as soon as you got at the table, you could take it off. So it's like, so the virus knows the difference between when I'm sitting down and when I'm walking around, right?
Well, remember, like
Indoors.
it's also woke virus ever too, because as long as you're protesting racial injustice, quote unquote, you don't need a mask, but God forbid, like you're
Yeah, no, like the more the merrier. Cram in there.
yeah.
So yeah, so it's like I'm not necessarily against wearing masks. It's like but it has to make sense. But
Right.
also, this stuff can't be mandated because it just goes because it goes against the Constitution. It goes against what what the founders laid out.
Right,
And also if you're saying that the government has the ability to tell you what you must wear, you're just opening up, you're just opening it up to them telling you what you can't wear.
yeah.
It's just it goes both ways. You think that you think the government is I mean, I think the government's stupid all over, but you think the government is that stupid that they won't realize that little caveat. It's like, oh, if we could tell people what they have to wear, then it doesn't stand to reason that we can tell them what they can't wear.
Oh, all right.
Right, and that gets into a whole bunch of First Amendment violations. Particularly religious clothing, yarmulke, burqa, crucifix.
Crazy stuff, man. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think this might be something good. If Trump, going through this process, shows a lot of strength. The media will swoon and go onto their fainting couches, with
But it's
outrage.
like, but also the reaction to it is just utter like it just reveals the evil.
Wanting him to die, and it's like that's just awful.
Right, like the same people who for 7 months now have been telling us that we're going to kill grandma and grandpa, but then are wishing the 75-year-old president or wait 71.
74, I think. I think
Okay,
he's
well
74.
yeah, well let's just say uh, demographic of person who might die from coronavirus, they're wishing his death.
Yep.
So it's just like, yeah, so okay, you're just evil.
Yeah.
Now it's like now we know for sure. Now we know for sure. We know that you're evil, and we know that you're hypocrites because you're ragging on people like myself, who just kind of question when the appropriate time to wear a mask was, and accusing me of being selfish and wanting to kill grandma and grandpa. It's just like, but then now you are literally wishing a particular grandfather to die.
Exactly.
Although that is my favorite comeback. When people go like, "Oh, you want to kill grandmas and grandpas?" It's like no, just yours. Just make it personal. It's like no, I don't want to kill all grandmas and grandpas, just yours.
Oh boy. But yeah, it's just kind of. I think this will be. We'll see how everything goes. I think everything's going to be just fine, and I
Yeah.
hope that it's something that helps. Boost people voting for Trump, and to keep the
Yeah,
country
I
like
mean, yeah, there's so much stuff that are waking up, just like average people, not like your indoctrinated leftists, but just ordinary people who are apolitical and who just want to live their lives, who want to provide for their families, and just want to go about just go back to their lives. I think
yeah,
a lot a lot of things are coming into focus for those people, and I think Corona, like the lockdowns are one thing, and I think people should understand that it's not like all the financial stuff that things that are happening. It's not because of the virus. It's because of the lockdowns.
yeah,
And so
artificial lockdowns and like, hey,
yeah, so when
like
you say like, oh man, this virus is really killing the economy, it's like no. It's a lockdown.
yeah, 200 days since the 15 days to slow the spread.
Yeah, right. 15 days to slow the spread turned into 7 months.
Yeah,
And again, I was talking to my niece's father, and he asked me, he's like, oh, it's like, oh, well, like, when everything opens up, things will get back to normal. It's like, well, when do you think that might be? And he's like, oh, I don't know. And I was like, I just told him straight up. So yeah, I honestly don't envision a day when the government's like, okay, you can go back to normal.
yeah, it's probably gonna get to that point. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's like that. I seriously do not envision a time where the government says like, okay, now you can, everything can open up, and everything can, you can go back to your lives. No, it's like, especially here in California, it's just like people have to just say like, all right, that's enough. We're done. We're no more of this, and just everyone decides to just get back to their lives. That's when it's over.
yeah.
Because right now it's like we're just like, oh man, I wish the government would give back our rights. It's like
You
if
no
the
you
founding fathers heard that, they'd be like, you fucking pussies.
yeah, exactly. Oh boy.
It's like it's not like for them it was like what is it they're like, oh man, it's like George, like King George needs to give us our rights. He needs to lower our taxes. It's like or why doesn't King George lower our taxes? It's like no, like let's start a war, make him kick make him not a part of our lives.
Yeah,
So I mean, and I'm not advocating like some sort of revolutionary war, but I'm just saying, just stand up, take a stand, and be like, okay, we're done. We're done with this
yep,
now. Yeah, and it's so stupid because we know it's all partisan because even the health director of L.A., the freaking crypt keeper, she even
yeah,
came out and said it. It's like, yeah, I think I envision us getting back to starting to open things up back up after the elections.
yeah.
Like she said this quiet part loud.
Oh, except that, as long as the right candidate comes along.
Right, exactly. But just like, but they're so short-sighted that like they don't think like they think that people are so stupid that they're gonna be voted back in. It's like Gavin Newsom, you are gonna be out. You're gonna be voted out, or you're gonna be recalled.
Yeah,
Either one of those two, right? And right now, like everyone wants your head on a platter.
yeah,
All right, and you can mitigate that. You can definitely mitigate that if you just even if he just like lifted some restrictions. Like I'm not even saying that he has to open up everything, but if he starts, acting like, if he starts making progress in like lifting restrictions, like even like bringing like indoor, indoor dining back in would
yeah,
would be a huge step in people kind of calming down and like not baying for his blood.
yeah. A lot of people got to work with these, forced lockdowns, and it's
Mm-hmm.
people just got to start, fuck this. Let's, we'll find our own way to like stay safe, yet at the same time like not lose our backside and our clothes on top of that.
Yeah. okay. I think yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
everything from this. Well, not everything, but I think the most important things. Democrats and the left are pieces of shit. Trump is amazing.
He is. It's I'm it's weird. Like I never when I heard that he was running, I was like, the guy that ran the USFL into the ground. It's like, uh, but the guy's been a pretty damn good president. I have to admit.
Right? Yeah. It's like, yeah. I always tell people, uh, I support the president like I support the driver of my bus.
Yeah.
Like, do a good job. That's like the minimum. Like, do a good job. Do a good job. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah.
But everyone else on the bus is like, passing that yellow line and like, putting their hands over his eyes, like, drive straight, drive straight. Why aren't you driving straight?
Exactly.
He's like you're the worst. You're the worst bus driver ever. That's what they're not literally, but that's what they're doing. Like, drive
Yeah.
straight. Why can't you? Like they put they got their hands over his eyes. It's like, drive straight. Why aren't you driving straight? You're such a horrible bus driver. You can't even drive a bus straight.
Yeah. It's a good analogy. I like it.
Yeah.
And the fact is, like, he does have like people trying to cover his eyes and hold his hands behind his back and kicking him in the groin, and the guy's still driving the bus pretty straight.
Right. Yeah. I don't. Despite everything, despite all like the distractions and the poking and the prodding, he's remarkably keeping the bus driving in a straight line.
Yeah.
Right. And just to double back to like the debates, I think the soundbite of sound bites from that night was him confidently declaring it's like, Joe, I've done more in 47 months than you've done in 47 years.
Yeah, it's true. The guy, like, you look at all the campaign promises and like what he's actually accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
It is light years ahead of like the last God knows how many like presidents that we've had. It's insane.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Someone, I forget who it was, but they made a very interesting point. Um, that even though like Obama campaigned on hope and change, um, I think there was a part of him that believed it, but he just but when he got in, he just became subsumed by you know what is colloquially known as the swamp.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I'm not saying that I liked Obama or I necessarily am gonna give him a pass, but you know, I want to believe that he did actually mean what he meant. When he meant like when he campaigned on hope and change. But it's just like again like the swamp, this thing, this uh, cesspool of unelected bureaucrats and hangers on from previous administrations that just become this unsightly growth in Washington D.C. that
You know,
that just ends up contaminating everything.
yeah. Well, I would agree that the swamp is like that, but that was Obama. To be honest, was already kind of yeah. A lot of these Chicago style politicians, yeah, maybe he wasn't like corrupt in like as far as like doing it for financial gain, but he's like Woodrow Wilson, whereas like he thinks that he's smarter and better than everyone else, and so like his
Right.
ideas are better, and
Mm-hmm.
so we're just gonna do it my way, Constitution or law be damned. I'll just
Yeah, yeah,
I can govern with a pen and a paper. I don't need all these other people.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, because I think, yeah, because I think that the Democrats in the Congress we're just riding on his coattails, riding on Obama's popularity and likability,
Yeah.
and that's why they advocated so much to him. But it's like, but yeah, but it's like but because as much as like establishment Democrats there are also establishment Republicans, and it's like and it
And a
and
lot of
Trump
them
and
are
Trump
very,
revealed and Trump whether you want to give him credit or not revealed that because like as soon
yeah,
as he got into office, as soon as you know they won the House of Representatives and the Senate, you know, for years the Republicans were saying like, oh, we have a replacement for Obamacare. We're just waiting for our time. We're just waiting for the votes. For us to get reclaim the House or the Senate or and the presidency. We're ready to go. And then as soon as that happened, like, so, all right, well, where's your plan? Let's get it done. It's like, oh, well, what we meant was like we had the beginnings of an idea of a plan,
yeah.
and
It's like they
so
didn't do anything.
yeah, exactly. And they didn't end up repealing or replacing anything. And again, it was Trump who went in and dismantled Obamacare by removing which is what the individual mandate, which is really weird because Obama only got that through because of executive order, but when Trump tried to repeal it through executive order, the courts tried to stop it.
Yeah,
But but even despite all the roadblocks, he still finds ways to get shit done. So I mean, if anything, you gotta give him props on that.
definitely. All right, I think we've scraped the shit off of this Sunday of an episode.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Let's get into the last two. Last two items on the agenda, and that is the let's get into the Lost Speedways reviews.
All right, so so we're doing two episodes, and one of them, the first one we're doing is based off of a project that was it was a track that was designed by a former driver by the name of Fireball Roberts. Now, most NASCAR fans know that's a very famous name. He was a superstar race car driver back in the 60s before his untimely death. And he was noted as kind of like the first superstar of NASCAR. Um, but anyways, like for those of you who are not like NASCAR fans, Fireball Roberts was a big deal. He was a great uh, NASCAR promoter. He did a lot for the sport, and he created this motorsports complex. Essentially, it was this huge complex in Georgia that had there was a part of it was like this 3.5 mile road course that he designed, but then they also had drag racing, they had boat racing, they had short like a short track, they had a dirt track there. I mean, they had if a lot of there's some tracks today that are starting to kind of have like kind of this like multiple sports in like one complex thing, but this was the first time like it had ever been tried. And unfortunately, this the while there was races held on the various other parts of the motorsports complex, the actual road course only got one race, which was won by Fireball Roberts. And I think they were, you know, to be honest, the episode kind of does end on a sad note, just because there's a lot of people, yeah, the people that are still involved with kind of the preservation of this area, which is actually a very beautiful area. You even today you can kind of like they still have this sadness to it because it's like, man, what could have been?
Right. I think yeah. This I really like this episode because it was really showing like their ambitions for the sport. And I think and the property was massive. I mean, I think they were talking about like the size of it, and like it was like the size of the Mercedes stadium. Um, what is it? The field that the Braves play in,
Yeah,
and some other.
they can hold Daytona in there too, and
Right,
still
and oh
have.
yeah,
And Daytona is a huge track. Let me tell
right,
you.
yeah. So like yeah, so those gi- four giant sports stadiums, like that's like you could fit all of those in there, and there's still room
Parking
uh,
lot.
for a parking lot. That's insane. It's like it was like they're trying to create the Epcot of motorsports.
Yeah, and it's still actually in fairly decent condition. Because part of it is actually still roads that people drive on.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, and like I mean, they had this whole thing where they actually was it they they dug up graves to move
Yeah.
to
Oh,
move.
that's right. Yeah. They pulled a poltergeist. They pulled a poltergeist.
Yeah, and they moved some of the graves into what they called Cemetery Hill. Um, but yeah, and then you had like the crazy idea, like there was no guardrails, like where they cross over like the water, and so
Yeah. Like
it's
yeah.
like
Where the course goes by or edges along on the side of the lake, there was no guardrail. So like if you took that turn too sharply, then you'd end up in the drink.
yeah, and one driver did during practice, and it's like he's claims that he saw a gator in there, which so they end up calling it like Gator Hill or Alligator or something. And it's like, and they were saying it's like, listen, like I'm not gonna if they're not gonna put a guardrail up there, I'm gonna believe their story that they saw a gator in there.
Right.
It's
Yeah, I
like,
believe what is it? Junior said that you know if they actually like went into the went into the lake, then then I have no reason to dispute their claims.
yeah, exactly.
But this is a yeah there was a I'm just impressed by the ambition or like the vision for the complex, but also it
Yeah.
was a little bit and it was like a little bit sad too. Knowing that they basically held like one race there and then they had to shut it down.
Well, and here's where the sad part comes in because the reason is that obviously like a lot of these speedways funding becomes a problem where like they
Hmm.
didn't they ran out of funds and so they couldn't keep going. And the reason that I think happened is because there that first race there were some problems like as far as like where they had spectators at and they weren't able to like get a real great view of the track, which they
Right.
were going to make improvements on. And Fireball Roberts, him being the promoter, creator, and kind of part owner of this track, and being the big name, he's gonna get the money. Somehow, some way, people are gonna because Fireball Roberts is invested in this. They're gonna want to get invested in this,
Right. Yeah.
and
It's the same ploy that big companies do when they bring in like celebrity like Papa John's when like the whole controversy with Papa John's, which is in my opinion ridiculous, was ridiculous because he was just quoting somebody. Um,
exactly
yeah, but then they brought in Shaquille O'Neal,
right,
and I'm sure
and
that helped stabilize the stock prices and stuff like that. And
yeah,
and
same thing.
he and then he yeah and he was able to then become the face of Papa John's.
Yeah, and same thing when they brought in Magic Johnson for the Dodgers.
Hmm.
That got people
Or yeah,
investing.
and Fatburger.
Yeah,
So yeah,
so
it's a pretty standard ploy. But then
right,
like Fireball Roberts passes away in a race, and
yeah,
and all those dreams, all those ambitions for one of the biggest motorsports complexes uh, are
yeah, just
dashed.
yeah, and it's really sad because his death was actually like it was a pretty horrific crash and death.
Hmm.
Some the safety back then was not quite as strong as it was.
Right.
They didn't have he. because the fire suits back then were not great. They would actually dip them in like this chemical, and
Right.
he was actually perfect to that chemical, and so and the fuels, it was actual a gas tank like we'd have in our production cars today. It wasn't what they have as these like rubber fuel cells that kind of like collapse and keep fuel from kind of spilling out. So it was this giant explosion at the it was during the one of the most famous stock car races, the World 600. um, and yeah, he ended up the flames just consumed him, and he got caught in the car, and essentially, he didn't die at the track, but the burns consumed him and took his life, unfortunately.
Mm.
So it was
Very
kind
sad.
of sad.
Yeah, but what could have been, you know?
Right. I look at that as like that. I didn't even know that this track existed, and I didn't even know this idea existed. And
Mm.
it's like, man, this would have been awesome. Had this track survived to today, I would have loved to go here because you can watch anything. Like, there's all sorts of different racing that you could go to watch at this motorsports complex.
Mm-hmm.
I think the road course would have been fascinating.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know,
Yeah,
just
and like especially now
yeah,
today, it would.
if you don't have the attention span to watch a full on like was it like 300 or like 400 you know races, then you could just go and like check out the what is it the drag races
Yeah, exactly, and
or yeah or check out the boat races or
yeah,
like whatever flavor whatever you're into,
right, and
those
and it
available.
wouldn't stock cars. I'm pretty sure they would have gotten Indy cars there, sports
Mm.
cars. There would have all sorts of cool stuff that you could have watched there. So
Hmm.
it's just kind of a sad episode.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on the episode, Andy?
No, I mean, no, that's all I got.
All right. Well, we'll get to the so that was episode 4 of Lost Speedways. Really good one. Go check it out. Now we're going to talk about episode 5, which is Hinchcliffe Stadium in New Jersey, which is a complex that still stands and has not only obviously a lot of racing history, but has a lot of just history in general. And this is also kind of another sad episode as well, because it could have been. This is something that should be restored. It's been promised about being restored and money being poured into it from the state government, and promise after promise has been just completely broken and dashed. But the thing is, it's not only a piece of racing history, but like not only the Hinchcliffe Stadium hosted Negro League baseball. It hosted historic boxing matches. I mean, all sorts of great stuff that within the last 100 or so years, and it's just kind of sitting there.
Yeah. Um, yeah. This was this another really a great venue. Um, because like Rouse Robert was saying that it wasn't just about racing, but it hosted a whole host of really historical events. Like Robert was saying, like the that's what it's one of the it was one of the stadiums that the Negro baseball league played out of, and I think they said that at least one of the Negro World Series was leagues
Yeah,
played
yeah,
there,
yeah.
games were played there, and so it's not just it doesn't have just racing historical what's the word I'm looking for? Just
It,
importance
it,
or significance, but just
yeah,
kind of general cultural significance as well.
right.
Because they're all
And
because they're also telling saying how they also had fights, which boxing matches, which Babe Ruth of all people came to watch, at the stadium, and even musical performances. Like I mean, I know not a lot of people are familiar with, but Sly and the Family Stone, great
oh yeah,
great funk band from like the '70s.
right. And it's kind of crazy because the whole thing, it does look like this like Roman Colosseum. Like it's in
Right, and like
it's set,
yeah, it has like a lot of Art Deco elements,
yeah.
which really give it a bit of personality.
Yeah, and the racing there was on the racing side of things, like it wasn't stock cars raced there for a short time, but it was really uh what are known as midget cars, which is it's kind of like when you look at Indy cars, or like it's kind of like kind of the old style Indy cars, like where they had kind of like more of like the teardrop bodies and stuff.
Hmm.
Midget cars were essentially an Indy car, but like half the size. That's why they're called midgets.
Hmm.
Uh, and the racing was very, very competitive, very tough. Unfortunately, there were some deaths because actually people went to jail for some of the wrecks that were caused because it was done on purpose, to take out a driver. And in those days, it's the epitome of an open cockpit. It's
Right.
yeah, there
Yeah.
is
Yeah. One of the maybe one of the badass things that about those cars was that a lot of drivers didn't even want to have seatbelts because they'd rather be flung out of the car than be crushed inside of them.
yeah. And to be honest, I actually think that that's not a yeah. I think I would have been one of the no seatbelt guys on that because yeah, that if that thing even like turns over at all,
Hmm.
I'm I'm getting out of there. It's like I
Right,
want to be
yeah,
able to.
and it's like, and it's not as though, yeah, like how Robert was saying, there wasn't, it's like, yeah, open cockpit. There's no safety roll cage, so
No,
if it did roll, like your head, like would, like your neck would, like kind of like be like squished down if it ended up rolling. Uh,
right,
but I would think I'd want the ability to just be. I'd rather be flung out and like possibly break possibly break something because there's no guarantee that you would break anything.
right.
But yeah, I'd rather have that than to be like crushed inside of and be stuck inside that car.
But it was kind of cool because you got to see and what's really fun about it is with a lot of the places that we've been seeing, people that have lived and raced and experienced these racetracks or in Hinchcliffe stadiums. Like they were there for like a lot of these events,
Hmm.
and they're able to share their stories and talk about like and it's like to this it's like to this day I can still like I can see like the racetrack. I can remember like a lot of this stuff happening,
Hmm.
and there's kind of a sadness to it. It's like we're it's kind of this should be restored. This venue
Hmm.
should be invested into and restored because it's a great venue and stuff can still happen here. And it's actually still in really, it's actually, despite the decay, it's actually still in really good condition.
Yeah, I mean,
So
yeah, except for like the random bits of graffiti, it's still all there. You know,
yeah,
um, to quote a friend and former guest of the podcast, Luis, from this weekend, it's like she can still get it.
yeah, yeah, she can still get it. Oh boy.
It's a yeah, it's inside joke, but it's really funny.
But yeah, no, it was kind of like sad watching the episode, but at the same time, it's like it's just kind of it was cool to see, like, it's not just race. This documentary series. It's not just racetracks either. These are historical areas that have a lot of significance, have a lot of history, and should be thought about and preserved and not forgotten.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, well, one thing I really enjoy is like the very first episode was I think uh, understandably geared towards NASCAR fans. But
Yes.
as subsequently as the series has been going along, it's starting to break go more general, and like incorporating and I think this is like a great example of it where it's like now it's like it's not just like this track that just did races, but it hosted all these significant cultural events, and with a very wide appeal,
Right.
and so again, I'm not saying that I'm ready to sit down and for like 3 hours and watch a race, but I can appreciate the history behind all these places,
Yeah.
and appreciate the sport for what it is.
Well, yeah. That's lost. I don't really have anything else to say about the episode that I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's the episodes 4 and 5 of Lost Speedways. If you've been following along with us, that's awesome. If you haven't seen any of the Lost Speedways episodes, it's on the Peacock app. Right now, it's free. I'd really recommend really watching this. It's if you love history, or if you're a racing fan, you're gonna love it. Can't go wrong.
Indeed. All right. Let's get into our movie reviews. Do you want to do? How do you want to do this?
We'll start with the kid and we'll end with Metropolis.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. The kid is the oldest or the earliest. So
Yeah.
all right. Let's. Yeah. We're gonna get into our review for the kid. Let me just give y'all a quick little synopsis of the movie. A woman decides to abandon her baby in the backseat of an automobile with a handwritten note attached, beseeching the finder to care for and love the child. When the car is stolen by thieves who discover the baby in the backseat, they subsequently leave him on the street. The child is discovered by the initially reluctant tramp, that's Charlie Chaplin, who eventually softens and comes to love him as his own. As the child grows up, both he and the tramp must learn to navigate through a life that spawns one adventure after another.
One thing I remarked when because we watched both these movies together. You actually
Yeah.
came over to watch them with me,
Hmm.
and one thing I remarked is like how that child's life like was so tragic from like the very get go of the
Right.
movie.
Yeah, because
Nobody,
yeah, she was like baby, the product of unplanned pregnancy, and and this was a time when that actually meant something. When being
the
called an illegitimate, like being considered an illegitimate child, really meant something.
yeah, and the hospital she went to was specifically for like
Yeah,
those type of pregnant.
unwed women. Like the loose women, quote unquote.
And she tries to leave her child with a well-off family, thinking like, oh,
Mhm.
I can't provide for himself, but I'm gonna leave him there.
Right.
And subsequently, you have the wealthy family's car stolen by these gangsters, who then discover, oh crap, there's a child in the back seat.
Yeah.
Well, we're just gonna dump him in the alley and drive off.
Right.
And the mother actually regrets, like she sees all these other kids and like starts to have like, oh crap, what have I done?
Hmm.
And while that's happening, like you have the baby being like trying to like get dumped off, with all these other people. Charlie Chaplin doesn't want it, like discovers it, doesn't want the kid to die, but also doesn't want to care for the
Yeah, it
kid.
doesn't know about the responsibility.
All right, so he's trying to like dump him off on like all these people, and it's uh,
Yeah, and she has to
it,
pass it off onto like a random woman passing by who also happens to have a baby, but
right,
she catches wise and it's like, hey, what the fuck? And then
yeah,
he tries to just leave the baby on the street, but then a passing cop kind of gives him like the look, and he immediately picks up the baby,
right, right,
and
right,
ultimately he just he decides to just take on the responsibility and care for the child.
right. And then the mom discovers that like her like that car was stolen, and the kid has disappeared, and she's forlorn. But we so that's kind of how like the movie begins, and it's it's kind of this like slapstick comedy, but it's also very tragic at the same time. Like
Right.
it's not a standard like knee slapper. It's
Mm-hmm.
actually kind of a very tragic tale.
Right. Yeah, it's not like the usual slapstick Charlie Chaplin doing a soft shoe with potatoes or whatever.
Right,
Um, it's really and I think it's dealing with a lot of kind of issues that 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 we that are now kind of we consider trivial. Like there's no real stigma or shame associated with you know out of wedlock pregnancies or children. Um,
right,
but I think for its time, I think it was highlighting something very important. Just kind of like, and I think because it wasn't this movie did come out in the 1920s or like
yeah,
the latter half of the 1920s, and and I think that in the 20s there was like there was a very wide discrepancy between the wealthy and the poor,
right,
and so one of the things was the father of the child was like this up and coming artist, who I think came from a pretty good family, but he had a lot riding on the line with his career, and so like and he couldn't risk the scandal of this illegitimate child,
right.
and so you know so he kind of distances himself from her as much as possible, but but kind of like the story, any great American story, there's always a comeback, and the woman uh, kind of turns her life around, becomes a prominent actress, and and she's then able to uh, you know uh, because of her success, she's able to do great, a lot of charity work. And one of them is to go out into the slums and hand out toys and what have you.
Yeah, kind of caring for like like poor children, and
Yeah,
at least in some way, like because she knows like where they're at, and like wants to help them as in ways that she didn't get help. And
or also just filling that need because like because she changed her mind, and she wanted her
yeah,
baby back, but and I think this was a way for her to kind of have that and look after baby, looking after children and providing for them. Uh, but Yeah,
it
and
is,
I think the relationship between Charlie Chaplin's character and the young boy eventually is, I think, the most. I really enjoyed it.
right. It's kind yeah. That's what I was saying. Like at the same time, yeah, that relationship was Charlie Chaplin. The Tramp had essentially nothing, but he did everything he could to care for the kid, and they didn't have much, but they had each other, and
Mm-hmm.
that was enough. And they had to pull kind of like a few scams.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
tramp
broken. It's
was
like some broken window scams.
yeah, but that was how they survived, and they made things work.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of like a touching like relationship, and
Mm-hmm.
when there's some tension like towards like the end of the movie where uh they discover like, oh, that kid is not the tramps, and they're trying to take him away. uh he the tramp kid had just said like, oh well, threw up his hands and said, all right, whatever. But no, he fought for him because he loved him like his own
Mm-hmm.
son. He essentially raised him for 5 years, five
Right.
6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then overall, like the movie does end on kind of a happy note because uh, in that scuffle, you have the woman discover discovers that like her son is alive,
Right.
and
It
takes
turns
him
out to
back.
be the kid.
Yeah, and at the same time, she also takes in the tramp too because, oh, you're essentially like, you're not only because the kid loves him, but it's like, so he raised him for all that time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, in a weird way, it is kind of a happy ending to a tragic tale.
Right, and I mean, it kind of goes to the idea of like, sometimes you can't choose your family, but sometimes you can,
Yeah,
and and even for the woman, because initially she thought she didn't want this kid, so she gives him up, but even but then she realizes she does want this kid, but in early on it's too late, but then she's given a second chance, and so like even now, like taking, not just taking in her son, but also taking in the tramp, and making him a part of the family, or their family.
right, right. Any other like significant parts of the movie that you wanted to touch on? I it's actually an incredibly short movie. It's only like what? It was only like an hour or so, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's only an hour.
Yeah. So it's as far as film goes, it was pretty short, but it was I think it was like a really good tale, and like I said, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else either really
Yeah,
of significance to add.
right. All right, well then, let's give our rating.
All right, why don't you start off, Andy?
I think I'll give this a 3.5.
3.5.
Three and a
Yeah,
half.
I think that's pretty fair.
Mm-hmm.
It's uh, for this is considered, I think, one of like Charlie Chaplin's best films. Um, I think of the films that he's done. I think this has like such a very significant story. It's not just comedy, which don't get me wrong, I love a good just straight up comedy, but it gives you a little bit of um, kind of like it's like a dark comedy, a little bit of a tragic tale, but like it's lighthearted and it ends on a good note. Um, so I like that, and cinematography is good.
Mm-hmm.
The acting is fantastic.
Yeah.
Charlie Chaplin really is the a master at his craft.
Right. I
Um,
think he wrote and directed this one.
yeah. This was a lot of his
Yeah.
his involvement.
Yeah. I don't know if it was his directorial debut, but yeah, I know. I think, yeah, I think he directed this one.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a good movie. I'd say if you're looking at silent movies, and if you don't have like a whole lot of time, check out this one. This one's a good one.
Yeah. Agreed. All right, that's our review of The Kid. Both Robert and I got give this a 3.5. Would recommend. Would recommend.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
uh, but probably but probably more for if you really consider yourself a cinephile. Um, if you're not, but you still enjoy movies, definitely put on the list of movies you should watch.
Yeah.
And yeah, go enjoy. All right. Well, let's get into the last one, and then we'll wrap up tonight.
This movie I've been looking forward to talking about.
Yeah. All right. Let me just give the quick synopsis. In a futuristic city sharply divided between the working class and the city planners, the son of the city's mastermind falls in love with a working class prophet who predicts the coming of a savior to mediate their differences.
Yeah, this movie was, I've been hearing a lot about Metropolis, and
Mm-hmm.
like, this is of the silent films. Like, if you're wanting to really watch a great silent film, this is the one to watch. And the parts of it were thought to have been like lost forever, and I think, and as more time has gone on, they've discovered more and more film that they thought was lost. And
Mm-hmm.
the current Blu-ray that is out, they added in a bunch of scenes that a film that they actually discovered in South America somewhere, and they've kind of reincorporated it back into the film. And the current Blu-ray format is actually the closest it's ever been to like how it would have been originally shown back in 25, I believe, is when this movie came out. And
27.
27, yeah. So it's as close as to like how it debuted in 27
Mm-hmm.
as it is to now. And honestly, there's a lot of significant things that have been taken from this movie that have inspired others. The robot and the android in Metropolis is what inspired C-3PO in Star Wars. You
Mm-hmm.
look at the landscape of the city of Metropolis, or that's, you look at, like, Blade Runner. Blade Runner City was inspired by that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
lots of cinematic archaeology there.
yeah, lots of cinematic archaeology, and the acting was quite brilliant in this. You had actors doing the female lead was essentially, she was playing two different characters,
Mm-hmm.
a good version and an evil version of herself,
Mm-hmm.
and you could tell the difference. Like, yeah, same
Right.
actor,
Mm-hmm.
but doing two completely different things. And
Right. Yeah. One like a little bit more understated, and then another one kind of like overt.
yeah, and for a silent film, that's kind of hard to do. 'Cause there's no
Mm-hmm.
dialogue, so you have to act the part, and she
Right.
did
Yeah.
great.
There's a lot more physicality in performances during the silent age, silent movie age, than that there was when the talkies came around. And I think
Right.
I think that's what the artist was trying to convey. When we watched that movie.
The other things that like really blew me away about this film was how the intertitles really like were very interesting, because obviously the intertitles usually is just showing dialogue, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, these were very interactive in a way, because it convey it. Not only did it say what it was trying to say, but it conveyed like the feeling and the intent behind like how things were being uh displayed. Like, yes, there's stuff
Or
that
like
was
how they're supposed to be read. Like you're like the way that they had the dialogue was kind of like it gave it like action and emotion.
right.
So
And
it's almost as though you could hear them speaking without actually hear them speaking.
exactly. But which, to me, I don't know of any other silent film that really did that, has ever done that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is that just like really, wow. This is awesome for a
Right. Because
silent.
like yeah, because even when we watched the artist, like they didn't attempt to do that with the dialogue. It's just kind of like the straight card. Like you just read it as you read it, and you kind of see how like they kind of physically acted out. But like again, like the dialogue cards, like, it just read as like dialogue cards.
Yeah, and yeah, so there was a lot of like revolutionary things that they did in this movie, and I don't know if you want to like start talking a little bit of, like some of your thoughts and like about the story or the characters, but I wanted to share like some of my thoughts on some of like the small stuff that was in there that really you know
Well, yeah. Why don't you go ahead? You go ahead and start off. So.
so essentially you have the story of there's essentially two classes. You have this you have this kind of like upper class that lives on top of the city, and they're sports stars, artists, thinkers, kind of very like well off people that live kind of in the lap of luxury. And then there's this whole underbelly of workers that are essentially keeping the city running, and they have to like it's very tough, difficult work, and they're on a time clock, and they have to keep the levers going, keep society going, and if they fail to do so, the city falls apart. And yet you have this whole upper part of society that either has no idea and about like what's going on, or the people that do know are kind of very come off as somewhat callous, as either like not caring or um, it's like that's where they belong kind of attitude. And and that's where there's this the main character, Freder. He's the son of the leader of Metropolis, and he is kind of a sports star, and he's go running frolicking around trying to fuck all the ladies. And all of a sudden this lady from the underground brings up all these children, and is like kind of saying like telling these children, these are your brothers that are here, kind of showing them like um what's above ground. And the way that she carries herself, Fredera looks at her and is like, wow, that, and like all the other women that like are like kind of throwing themselves at him, he could care less about. Like he's enamored with, I think Maria. Maria is her name,
Yeah, Maria.
and and that's where his focus becomes, and that's where he goes on this journey and discovers that there's this whole lower society that's like that she's a part of, and he kind of ends up finding someone down there and trades places with them so that he can understand what's going on down there. And like the whole like there's a whole like kind of like religious factor, um, and yeah, it's a very like kind of complex story. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of symbolism.
Right. Because they're not, the people, the working class, they're not necessarily happy with their station, but they're not necessarily calling for revolution, or at least not initially. Um,
Right.
and I think they are desperately seeking a peaceful resolution to the kind of the disparity between the haves and the have-nots.
Right. And Maria is kind of their leader that's kind of trying
Mhm,
to bring that about.
mhm,
Um, and the funny thing is, the revolution doesn't come from the people that are living below. It's coming from above, from a guy that doesn't like the Frederic's dad. Was this? It's like to essentially like they both love the same woman, but the Frederic's mom ended up marrying his dad, and had him and died in childbirth, and the guy that's going that is wanting to cause dissension is I think his mom's name is Helen, and they just call it or Hell for short.
Hmm.
And he holds that against the leader, and so he is creating this android that is supposed to be like a recreation uh, of hell, and he's just trying to find someone to to kind of be in place, like kind of like a physical embodiment to like transfer onto the to the robot, and it's gonna follow his like commands, and it's mainly meant to help stir up dissension and cause an overthrow of the above ground society.
Right.
Uh,
The social structure. It's yeah.
exactly.
She's designed to upend the social structure.
And so that's what ends up being like kind of like the main uh kind of contention in the movie is so they end up this guy ends up kidnapping Maria, and he transfers her likeness onto the android and is trying to keep her hostage so that people think of her as like, oh, this is Maria, and now like her being kind of the leader, they're gonna listen to what she's saying, and now all of a sudden she's saying we need to like stop, we need to overthrow the people above ground, like we need to stop like working down here until we get our way, and uh yeah, and it just causes all this chaos, uh and from there Freder like is trying to uh, not only he rescues tries to help or he rescues Maria, and at the same time he's going down below because he realizes that like all the adults have run up but all the kids were left down below,
Hmm.
and because no one is kind of keeping the city running, stuff not only is the all the devices and gears and levers controlling the upper part of the city, but it also affects down below too. Like so, their whole everything's starting to crumble and fall apart, and the kids end up being trapped down below. So he has to go and save them, and that's what ends up being kind of like he rescues all the kids, and that ends up helping to be the this kind of melding point where there's this constant of like um the hands that kind of like put the heart and mind together, like he's like intermediary between like the head and the mind,
Hmm.
and they're constantly like talking about that theme throughout the movie, and by him like rescuing the kids and kind of like sacrificing himself to do that, he's able to kind of bring people to the table to bring peace and have that peaceful solution that was wanted from the very beginning. I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, I mean just well, just like also the kind of like the cinematic archaeology, but I think I just remembered another well the TV show the Futurama. It heavily borrows from Metropolis, even
You're
down
right.
to like the design of the robots
Yep. Yeah.
and uh, and even like
Yeah.
the layout of the city as well. It's
Yeah.
it's an homage to Metropolis. Yeah, and like even like and in Futurama, there's like the idea of like there's like the normal human beings, but then there's also like in like the sewers and under like old New York as it's known, they have the mutants. Like kind of like so it's kind of like their version of like the working class, or but in Futurama's case, it's like they're just like people that are not allowed to like come up to the surface unless they have like a special permit.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so yeah, just like this movie, yeah, it's hard to it's not an overestimation or an oversell of the idea of like the significance of this movie to like popular culture, even today.
Right.
You know. Oh yeah, and like even I think what is the Fifth Element takes cues like at least in like in the futuristic design of New York City. I think it does take cues from Metropolis, and just the
Yeah.
way the buildings are and the land and the like the landscape and things like that. So yeah, even though this movie is like almost 100 years old, it's the effect on culture, and even though this is a German movie, it's like the I think it had a global effect on culture, like how and I think the genre of like science fiction and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, this is I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I think it's highly significant. Um, not only is it a good silent film, but I think it's just a good movie in general. Um, and yeah, it's like I said, it's inspired so many directors and like thinkers. Uh, just it was such a revolutionary film. It is essentially a foreign film, but it's inspired so many here, in the United States, in some of their films and shows.
Yeah, like, again, we're not. Or yeah, I don't think it's an overstatement to say that how significant this movie is.
Yeah, and I uh, I can't wait to watch it again. I'm actually probably gonna end up buying this movie at some point just so I can rewatch it as often as I want. Just because I
Mm,
know that we're only really like scratching the surface on this movie.
mm,
Because there really is a lot of like significant moments to talk about with this.
right.
Um, that we just don't have. We don't have. Oh, we could probably do a whole episode just dedicated to this movie. But obviously we're just doing it as a normal Tuesday review, so we can't just get into everything, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, because it's like there's a lot of different like elements, like because it had like a bit of like a Tale of Two Cities vibe, where
Yeah,
Federer switches place with the worker, and like the worker gets to like kind of experience some of the high
sure.
life, as it were.
Yeah,
So and also like the religious aspects of it, because uh, it's
I was
so
about
and
to.
it's very odd because like Federer, he's basically his trust fund kid. But
Yeah,
as soon as he goes down into the pit, into the like all the machinery and stuff, he immediately has compassion for these people who are like working themselves ragged. So
right.
everyone else can enjoy their lives. And I think that was pretty unique because you think someone you think of a kid who's basically a prince. For all
Yeah,
intents and purposes, he's a prince, and he's had everything in his life given to him, and he's wanted for nothing. But he immediately recognizes the injustice or the inhumanity of the treatment of these workers, and
right, right.
he immediately decides to switch places with one of them, um, and he then kind of like figures out his destiny. But again, I'm not gonna I could I'm kind of getting started, but I'm gonna stop myself because yeah, this movie is so culturally significant that we could literally do an entire episode just on this movie alone.
And we may end up like revisiting this one because I kind of think that there's a lot more to like dive into.
Mm,
But this is I've been dying to watch this movie for a long time,
right.
and so I was really excited. Hey, I got to watch it with you, so that was fun.
Mm,
But yeah, we'll definitely. I think we'll do another episode just solely based for this movie because it's so good. It's so chock full of cinematic archaeology.
mm. All right. Well, I have nothing else to add, and if you don't have anything else to add, then let's get into our rating, and we'll call it a night.
All right, let's go with you, Andy. What do you think? What's your rating on this one?
I'm gonna give it a 4.5.
Damn, dude. Like we're.
I know we're like.
That's
Yeah, and
exactly
I
what I
mean,
was.
and I know it's not there, but I can only rate it on what I've seen, and and I'm gonna ding it just because there again kind of technically because there was a missing scene, and there was a filler note describing what the scene entails, and the kind of the goings on of it, but
Maybe one day they'll find that missing scene and we can bump it up to a 5.
yeah, you know yeah, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm gonna
but
give it
yeah, so
four
I
and a
can only yes again I can only judge it on what I saw, and so and again it's a technical thing. I'm not I maybe a little bit of the story because I think there's some like uh, what's the word I'm contrivances with the kind of with the plot, but again not that terrible because I'm only knocking it down half a point. So
half. Yeah, it's 4.5 for me. Obviously, like it's not like the. I hope there's one day where we get to see like the full version of this. Maybe we
mhm.
find some clay pot and like Qumran somewhere where they stored like this film. Yeah, it's and but yeah, like the intertitles were like I just that alone was like wow, that they really went all out for this movie. I think the acting was fantastic. The story was really good. Um, a lot to consider and think about. It's a movie that makes you think, and you almost forget that it's a silent movie. I mean, there's so much
Yeah.
going on.
Mhm.
There's so much happening. So I gotta. It's 4.5 for me. It is an absolute must watch.
Wait, this came out in 1927.
27.
Yeah, 27. You think George Orwell saw this movie?
Oh, hands down. I think like he probably like was inspired by it too, with his writings.
Right. Yeah, because when you see like kind of like the workers kind of like uh, kind of drudging along, I couldn't help but think of 1984 and like the descriptions of like uh, of just kind of the people who have just been like so demoralized and and
Just trudging along with
yeah,
like
just trudging
not
along. Yeah, I mean,
yeah
and then like even and then going back, a little bit more previously to when we watched, Equilibrium, kind of like that
yeah
same kind of feel of like 1984's, when just kind of like another, a face in the crowd, and you see like the people waiting to go into the subway or whatever. It's
yeah.
gonna yeah, it just reminded me of like that scene where when they're climbing the stairs, and all in unison, everyone's just kind of looking down, not really paying attention to each other.
I almost forgot about that movie. I think
Yeah.
Joyce might like that one, Equilibrium.
Oh yeah, for sure. Lots of action. Not
Exactly.
it's not an old movie, so it's not in black and white. So
Yeah, she this Metropolis would probably not be for her, but I think we could get her to watch Equilibrium.
oh no, for sure we could, for
Yeah,
sure you could.
yeah. Well, Andy, if you tell her, she'll actually listen to you. Actually, no, James would. She would listen to James.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I got nothing else. That's my rating. Go out and watch it, guys. It's really
All right.
awesome.
Well, there you have it. That's our review of Metropolis. Again, we're just scratching the surface here, but we're kind of since we're catching up on 2 weeks, we decided that we're just kind of doing the bare minimum, and
Yeah,
who knows, we might come back, we might revisit it and give it a more thorough review,
I think it
and kind of analysis.
I
Was it?
think it I think it deserves one.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, that was the stream for tonight, guys. Hope you guys were entertained. Um, Don't forget to check out the library of other videos that we have. The Circulator's main podcast, Nocturnal Transmissions, of course, and Rob's Gaming Show, Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts: Twitter at PodcastCOJ, Instagram at Circulators Podcast, and Letterboxd at PodcastCOJ.
And don't forget to tune in tomorrow as we look at the vice presidential debate.
That's right, and we will be we will be streaming the vice presidential debates. So tune in again for that. I forget when that is, but we'll put out a notification.
Yeah,
on our social media. All right. Thanks for joining us again, and let's do it again next week.
Sounds like a plan.